Welcome to a quick tutorial on photo touch-ups. Now, in this particular tutorial, we're going to focus in on cloning one part of the image out to another, although there are many different approaches and techniques to touching up a photo. And what you choose to do is really within your comfort level. In many of these photo editing tools, they all have cloning tools, they have um, healing tools, they have a smudging and blurring and all that other good stuff. And those are all great tools. And why and how you might use one or the other is really beyond the scope of this tutorial. But I'm going to go ahead and just show you some really quick things using the cloning tool and maybe a couple of the other tools. As in all imagery, I always like to use my layers. I've pulled out my layer palette here. And by pulling it out, I mean that it normally just sits over here to the side of that screen, and I'm going to just pull it over here for focus, and I'm going to pull over my regular tool palette as a focal point too. And the more important part here is I'm going to actually duplicate this layer. Oops. I'm going to duplicate that layer. And I want to duplicate the layer because if in fact I mess up, I'd rather just go back to an original right then and there as opposed to having to start all the way over, although there's several techniques to do that too. In terms of this particular image, I can see there's a couple of places where I might want to clean up. But the focal point that I'm going to clean up for this tutorial is this little piece down here, this pipe that's sitting to the left of the elephant here. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just a little bit here so that I can see a little bit closer as to what I'm doing. I'm going to zoom in just a touch more. And I'm going to shift left. And so here is that pipe that I kind of want to get rid of. Now, disclaimer, in terms of this tutorial, I'm not going to get rid of the entire thing. I don't think you want to watch me go through the pain of each and every little detail, but I'm going to give you some general sense of how I might approach this. Once again, I'm working off of a background copy, and I'm going to come over here to my tool palette, and I'm going to choose my cloning tool. It's this little stamping piece here. And if you do that, notice that as you come over to the screen, it's hard to see, I'm sure, but there's a little circle there. If you hold down on the Mac, the command key, you get a little crosshair. And on the PC side, sometimes it's the control, sometimes it's a control A, depending on the software that you're using. But essentially, you basically need to grab a sample area. So you're basically grabbing a sample area, and then we're going to clone that sample down here. So roughly this content or this image portion here is pretty stable according to my eye at this point. So if I basically took this portion of it and cloned it down on top of this portion over here, then I would get the illusion that this pipe isn't there. So once again, I'm going to hold down my command key here, and that's my sample area. Now I'm going to come down and notice that as I'm clicking and dragging, I can see right above that little sample piece there. And as I click and drag over that, it's pulling directly from that sample piece up there. And so I'm beginning to get rid of that particular piece. Now I can see that there's a fairly distinct color distinction between what's up here and what's down here, particularly because this drops into shadows. There's other techniques to deal with that, but for the moment, what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to approach it from the side. I'm going to click my command key and click here so that I grab that as a sample. And now I'm going to come in from the side and try to pick up some of it. Now, notice that if I start my sampling too close to my piece, I actually end up replicating the very thing that I didn't want to replicate in the first place. So I'm just going to keep playing with this here. And now I'm going to have to come back here. I'm going to, I probably didn't want to pick up that dark of a tone there, but now I'm going to come over here, pick this up, and I'm going to try to darken this up a little bit as well. I'm going to come all the way down, and I'm going to do that one more time, and I'm going to come in on this side of it. Now, notice here that my little crosshair piece is sitting down into the concrete. So now in my cloning or stamping area, you're going to start to see me pick up that. Obviously, that's not what I want to do, but that is really the idea here behind stamping, is that you can take a part of the image and you can basically pull that and stamp over another part of the image. So I'm also going to clean up this down here. And I'm going to pull this here. And again, I'm getting some weird color variance here. But the secret, I think, here is just to always pick up a color that's very close to what you want to replicate. And so I'm going to come over and do this and this. Now, I'm not going to go through the pain of doing all of this because I'm sure you don't want to sit here and watch this. I'm going to zoom out. And I'm going to zoom out one more time. And at this particular point, while it is certainly not perfect, you can see that the pipe has started to disappear. I might go back in here later on and pick up some of the blurring tools, or I might pick up some of the spot healing tools to try to blend out those colors a little bit more. But that, in essence, is what you want to do for your exercise on photo touching. Find a photo that has a little bit of something wrong, not a lot, and then go ahead and pick some areas where you can clone or stamp over those imperfections, create the new image, and then insert it into your instructional example page. That's it for this particular tutorial. See you guys later.